So we have another new report about how the Republican tax plan has been screwing you over. Now, as a result, the GOP back in 2017, helped Donald Trump, passed a massive tax cut for the rich. And as a result, unsurprisingly, rich people got substantially richer. And I mean a lot richer. The average tax savings per year for, remember, the top 1% is about $61,000. That is the median for an entire year of a working person. Okay, so now, according to Business Insider, the first year that the tax cuts went into effect, billionaires actually ended up paying a smaller portion of their income in taxes than the average American. Fun. In fact, taxes are so historically low that it's never happened before for the rich. Now, according to analysis of tax data by the University of California at Berkeley's Emmanuel Says and Gabriel Zuckman, billionaires only paid about 23% of their income in federal, state, and local taxes in 2018. The average American, meanwhile, paid about 28%. So I'm paying more taxes as a percentage of my income than the CEO of Amazon or ExxonMobil. Does that not seem strange to you? They are the richest corporations in the world, and the average person pays more than the CEO as a percent. That's crazy. I feel a little bit ripped off. And that's, of course, unfortunately, how the system is rigged against us because they use that extra money. They bribe politicians. Those politicians then, of course, pass lower taxes for their donors. That's how the system works. But okay. So now you might say, but hey, look, Donald Trump gave everybody a tax cut. It's not just the rich. Well, okay, but 83% of the gains went to the wealthiest Americans. So, yes. Now, as Sayers and Zuckman wrote in their new book, The Triumph of Injustice, they said that the U.S. system right now is a giant flat tax, except at the top where that tax is regressive. Payroll taxes and regressive sales tax increase poor Americans' overall tax burden, according to Sayers and Zuckman, while capital taxes, like capital gains, target investments typically held by the ultra wealthy have been scaled back since the 1980s. So they've been decreasing taxes on investment and, of course, increasing taxes at the state and local level. Again, more regressive than the supposedly progressive federal tax system. So now, interestingly enough, between the years of 1950 and 1980, billionaires actually paid a lot more. They paid about 50% in taxes, according to Sayers and Zuckman. So that tells me one thing, right? Now, if you want to make America great again, Trump people go back to the 1950s and they say that's when America was great. That's when we had the greatest generation. That's when we did the greatest things. And you know what? We did do some really great things between those years. And then what happened? Well, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan slashed taxes for corporations. And then there were two court cases that made corporate expenditures in elections legal. You had money is speech and corporations are people, according to these two different court cases that led the way for Citizens United and McCutcheon versus FEC, which, of course, fully weakened the limits on campaign financing. So there you go. But my point is about between 1950 and 1980, billionaires, again, paid more than half of their income in taxes. Now, again, you want to make America great again, just raise taxes on the rich like we did before. It's not as if we're instituting anything new. It's that we're just saying, let's go back to the tax levels when America was truly great. There you go. Now, right now, according to Sayers and Zuckman, as a group, and although their individual situations are different, the Trumps, the Zuckerbergs, and the Buffetts of this world pay lower taxes than the teachers and the secretaries. And as a result, the top 1% of Americans now own 40% of the country's wealth. That's huge. And income inequality is at the highest level ever recorded. Now, you know what they say about things that are too top heavy? They will fall over. Right now, the income and distribution is top heavy. Now, the majority of the U.S.'s economic growth, too, which, by the way, we've had a ton of economic growth, and you've seen the chart. You've seen the great disparity where we're even more productive than we've ever been before, but productivity has, the wages have not kept up with productivity. So we are doing more and getting less for it, while most of the gains have gone to the top 1%. There is a problem there. So now how do we solve this problem? Well, there's a few ideas out there. One is actually floated by two different presidential candidates on the Democratic side, and that's a wealth tax. Elizabeth Warren has a wealth tax, and so does Bernie Sanders. Now, Warren's is, of course, pretty good, but Bernie Sanders is better, more aggressive. So you guys know which one I favor in that. But her plan calls for a 2% annual tax on households with a net worth between $50 million and $1 billion, and a 3% annual tax on households with a net worth over $1 billion. Again, Bernie Sanders has a much more robust plan. I urge you guys to go and look at the details of that. But again, Warren's plan, also fairly decent. So now, how do Americans feel? Well, first, we know we're getting screwed over. We know we're paying more taxes than the wealthy. And look, if you're a conservative, you should be livid about this. Aren't you angry at paying taxes? Shouldn't people who have more, who can afford to do more, pay more? I know. Oh, it's punishing businesses. Right. Okay. No business has ever left because of tax rates. Let's just point that out. But okay. So we've got two really good plans to address a problem that is hurting the country at this point. I think regardless of whoever gets into office, whether it be Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, and it's looking like either of those would be the more likely candidate, since Biden is fading and Donald Trump is likely to not win 2020. I know. Laugh at me all you want, but I do think Donald Trump is not going to win. And I've heard that before. And actually, back in 2016, I said Donald Trump will win if Hillary Clinton is the nominee. And so let's be fair about that. I was 100% correct. So that said, I think whoever gets into office will be doing something to address the levels of income inequality, because that's what needs to happen. That is something that we desperately need to do, because the United States, we cannot continue to go along this path. There will be another crash. There will be another recession, and it will be devastating if we do not right the ship. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.